Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. We believe all investments have merit and all investments have relevance. All investments have their time and place depending on you, your objectives, and your goals. My name is Seth Cressman, and I'm joined here once again with John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw. How are you guys today?
Good morning, Seth. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Fantastic. We're all planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group, and we're glad you're listening to Money on Tap. If you're looking to sit down with an advisor and start making some of the right steps towards your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook at Money on Tap or any of the podcast venues out there streaming us if you want to go back and catch up to where we are today and what's been going on in Money on Tap. We appreciate our listeners out there doing that with us today too. On today's show, we're going to spend some time talking to those of you in our audience who are planning for their retirement or maybe already retired.
You know, Seth, I'm going to tell you that retirement is the most frequent topic that we really cover when we're talking with people. Now, we have a lot of people out there that want to plan different things. They want to plan for their kids' education. They want to do some good estate planning to make sure that they hold on to as many assets as possible and don't have to give all of it away when they pass away. We talk about things even as mundane as, hey, should I buy or should I lease my car? There's a lot of different topics that we talk about all the time with people. But I will say, by far, the topic that we're talking about when we're talking with people is retirement planning. How can I, number one, start saving in the right direction? How can I save enough? How can I make sure that the amount that I've saved will be enough for me in my retirement? There's a ton of different topics that we talk about.
Yeah, and I find that I think the thing that I love about what we do is that the scope of how far and how much help we do is, there's no defined limit with a lot of people, and that's cool. I mean, we actually get involved in their lives in ways where, I've helped people buy cars. I've helped people think about downsizing homes to condominiums and, all the different pieces that we've stepped into to work with kids where, there's special needs scenarios or they wanted us to communicate to the kids what their long-term goals with their assets were and, kind of have that open conversation while they were alive instead of leaving it in a will as a big surprise, I think the thing about what we do is just the engagement, that's the fun part, honestly.
It is, and I think we're all very fortunate to be involved in a profession that's a lot of fun that we enjoy doing each and every day. Just last week, just had the opportunity to sit down with a couple that were just looking for some help with how do I get out of some of the debt that I have, and we're able to help kind of structure a plan for them so that going forward they could actually start to build wealth after they get some of this debt out of the way. So I know we all have fun in what we do, and there's just a lot of different scenarios that we see. With each person, everyone has a different scenario. And Ben, I remember you telling me about, we have clients that have all different needs, and some people may be more needy than others. I remember you telling me one time that you were dealing with a client and they want to know, hey, should I go ahead and buy this television set? Now you may think, well, why would I ever ask my advisor that? But we have some people, and I don't know if that was a widow or who it was, but sometimes they just need help, and they need it kind of the help in the trenches. Some people don't want it at all. Some people are just like, hey, set me up and set the money away. Other people want a lot more help when it comes to detail in their situation.
Well, I think, in that scenario, there's a couple of things I've actually done in that area, but I think that's just because they're not sure. They're older or they haven't, bought a TV in forever, and then it's like they're replacing some old box, and they just want, they may be a widow or whatever, and they're just looking for some affirmation that they're doing the right thing, or there's just like, am I missing something? And that's totally normal and fine.
It's the human element that we all discover as we're making decisions. Here's one of ours recently, and Ben, I've come to you, and what have I been talking to you about when we're trying to, Kira and I are trying to sort some things out as far as buying a new house or staying where we're at, and what are the opportunities that we have, and it's hilarious to me sometimes because Kira's she's a vet in real estate. Like I'm astonished when I look at her, and then I look at her resume. I'm like, holy cow, how have you done all this in just such a short period of time? And it's like, well, 18, 20 years is what she's been doing real estate in. But when we're looking at a home for ourselves and our family,
all reasons out the window, isn't it?
oh, it's hilarious. She's so emotional. Like all the things that like buyers go through that is really hard sometimes as an agent to help her clients through the process and the decisions that they're making. And it's so emotional. And she's doing the same exact stuff. And it's just hilarious because we're all human beings. We're all doing and going through the same thing together. And anytime that we have a decision out there to make, guess what? We're going to probably
bounce it off somebody.
We need to, because, being honest with ourselves and recognizing like what's going on, like why am I making the decisions or feeling the way I'm feeling or leaning one way or another? It's so hard to recognize.
I've had financial advisors come to me and say, listen, I want you to manage my money because I can't stand doing it for myself. I'm the worst customer.
Are you talking about me?
No.
Okay.
Somebody else, but I'm happy to help.
If he was, Seth could not tell you due to client confidentiality.
Yes.
So
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And,
thank you.
And I'd have to raise your fees.
Yes, which you definitely would.
Jack fees everywhere.
So let's talk about retirement today, because that's one of the main things we talk about. Let's talk about one of the most important topics that people face. Now, there's no doubt there's a lot of people in our listening audience today that are between the ages of 55, 60, 65, and these folks are starting to look at, well, obviously I need to be putting money away. I need to have money in the right places, but also I need to start thinking about, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to stay in the house I'm in? Do I want to go in a different direction? If I live in the north, do I want to go south in the path of Hurricane Harvey or in the path of Hurricane Irma? Boy, that's going on right now.
Oh, my word.
Talking about just some
poor people.
Just some very, very sad situations going on there right now. But there's a lot of people that really have a lot of satisfaction when it comes to where they are. And I just actually had a friend of mine that moved from New Hampshire here to Florida. And now he's younger. He's not even ready to retire. He's not even close. But the fact is he's just done with the snow. He's done, and his wife is done with the snow. And she was reminding him a lot more this past year about how tired she was of it. And so they decided just to make the move to Florida, where it's just they got the heat and humidity and all that. But they're just tired of it. So there's a lot of retirees out there. They kind of feel the same way. Maybe they're just done with – do we see people moving here? Do we see people from Florida moving to New Hampshire? I don't see that.
Well, that's intentional. That's intentional on our part. No, but I think it is interesting.
There's some levers and controls over those decisions being made. People don't realize it, but Ben's got some.
It's cold enough.
Some
pull. It's cold enough up here that people, it's a little bit of a deterrent.
Here's what I've seen, though, guys. I've seen that people that retire to Florida and they decide they don't like it and they come back. I actually just had that happen.
I've had that happen too.
A client retired to Colorado. They didn't like it at all, came back to New Hampshire, decided they really didn't like New Hampshire as much because of the cost of living. They went upstate New York, found a great place, and was just a better move for them. But so far they're there.
Yeah.
One of the points that you just touched on there I want to get to, but I was going to say, what I discovered this morning as I was getting out to my car to come here was it looked like there was some kind of maybe like a white flies hatch going on. And it was just the most bizarre thing. I'm looking around and this almost like a snow happening around me. Yeah, it's almost like a really, really super fine snow, but it's actually because of the forest fires that we're having right now. And that might be a consideration. Not that everybody's looking to move to Portland, Oregon today, but people talk about how rainy it is here, how wet it is here. And yeah, we just went through one of the wettest, I think, on record, but also our summers can get super long and drawn out into, they can be gorgeous, but then all that lush green gets dry and we have fires going on all around us right now.
Wow. Yeah.
But the point I think that was really interesting that you're making there is the fact that we can make choices like that. Like we can take a look at the map. I mean, it's huge from Hawaii to Alaska or even just the lower 48. You can make a decision where you want to live in the U.S. I mean, it's like you can just look under the hood, pull back the blinds, whatever you want to call that.
You can pick
anywhere,
any cultural or heat, index,
and then you can move back.
Weather, wet,
you can be like,
dry, whatever.
Not my,
Isn't that wonderful?
not my thing. I'm going back.
Isn't it great though, the freedom that we are afforded in this country that we can do that? You can go anywhere.
Yes.
The
And
number
there's
of climates.
And
and the diversity.
there's
yes.
some places where you're not allowed to. You need to stay where you are. You never have the potential to be able to move over to someplace better or to improve your life. And we have that opportunity
right,
here.
like England or the United Kingdom or Germany. Like I've heard that it's just horrible over there right now.
You have
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what's really exciting about, and I mean, the point of today's show is to talk about some of the reasons and why people are retiring in certain areas and the considerations people are making. But what's I think an interesting experience that we've all had at the table is people moving or not moving a place they didn't like, moving. I mean, I haven't really met a lot of people that there's not a vast majority of people who move and say, "Oh, I love it. I made the perfect move."
Yeah.
That seems to be the minority.
There's always pluses and minuses, right?
Right.
I mean,
I think the grass is always greener, and I think people need to realize that nothing's perfect. But what I think is really interesting is that there's this large segment that's actually, hey, the house is paid off. We're going to keep this. We're going to get some condo in a nice little area.
that is exactly. Some people don't like the change, and they figure, you know what, my house is paid off for the first time ever. If I can just afford to pay the property taxes, I don't have to pay anything. I've gotten this house in good shape, so I don't have to worry about putting a new roof on. I just did that 5 years ago. Those type of things. So sometimes the easiest thing is just to stay put, and if they're happy there, then that can be actually a very good move for them, or no move can be a very good move for them. You know.
And a lot of the time, I think probably, without doing a direct poll, probably about 80% of the people that I talk to are more snowbird, or when they've just got two different destinations. Summers they're up north, and fall and winter they're down south, and that's more common, I think, for people when they're trying to retire and just look at what's best for them. But I don't think a lot of the people that are making moves are moving based on what we're going to be discussing today. I think most of them are making moves on the climate.
Sure.
Cold
versus
warm. I want a change of my I want a change in my environment.
Yeah, I'm excited about today's show and the fact that we're going to talk about things that people don't necessarily give consideration to when they want to retire in a location. People are like, well, I just want warmer.
Yeah,
from New England, right? I just want something a little warmer.
Seth, you talked about, and Ben, you're talking about this, the warm factor. We have clients that just recently retired from here in New Hampshire. They had two homes they were maintaining, one in Florida, one here. But one of the downsides, Seth, you're talking about 80% of the people we talk to, will decide maybe that they want to have a place, a snowbird place and also a warm place. The fact is that may be the case early on in retirement. I will say this, though. As clients progress through retirement, we see people that have been retired for 8, 9, 10, 12 years. At that point, they're also starting to think, you know what, boy, the cost to maintain both, the hassle of driving back and forth is just more than I want to do. That's what I saw with my grandparents, actually. They had a place in Connecticut, and then when they retired, they were going 6 months to Florida, and then they kind of go back and forth. And what they found after a while was the fact that it really was pretty expensive for them to do that. And as they saw things like their fixed pensions not buying them anymore, in fact buying them a lot less, they found that they really did not like the aspect of having to travel back and forth. So they decided, you know what, Florida's going to be our full-time place, and we don't want to have the hassle to have the snow being shoveled out the place in Connecticut, to have all these different things. If you have one problem with with ice where your pipes freeze, that can cause some major problems. So as people get older in the retirement, we find maybe one house is just more doable.
You know what?
I think I know.
You're listening. You are listening to Money on Tap. We're going to take a quick break. If you're wanting to get a hold of us, you can reach us at 855-226-8551. Thanks for joining us today, or emailing us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw discuss the tendency to move an investment in and out of a plan, usually out of fear, and the importance of using a financial planner, a third party, to help ease the emotional ups and downs and make wiser investment decisions on this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap.
Well, I think that moving in and out can be very, very dangerous. But that's typically what a lot of people will do. But many times people will wait until the bad news actually hits and the market is down, that's when they start cranking money out.
I bet you everyone listening would probably say, if I pull my money out, it's going to go up.
Right.
If I leave it in, it's going to go down. We were talking with an advisor yesterday, so we'll actually handle other advisors' money as well. And some advisors admit, I'm really good at managing money for other people, but I can't handle the emotional swings myself.
There is definitely truth to that.
Let me just sit down with somebody. That's where people give us a call and they say, hey, how would you do this differently? Show me where your value is. And that's where we bring different stories to the table, and the three-dimensional investing comes in.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Crossman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, Personal Finance Headquarters, where we bring out professionals' experience and some fun in three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at info@yourmoneyontap.com, or you can reach us at 855-226-8551 if you join us via podcast. Welcome as well through Apple Music, iTunes, or Stitcher, whatever your venue is. Hey, you guys, can you see what I'm wearing right here? You see what I got?
I like your hat,
very
Seth.
handsome.
You like my hat?
I like your hat.
Very, very good. Hopefully the radio listeners can see that as well. And I'm wearing a Money on Tap hat, and it is looking good. You know what?
I get
think
a lot of
just putting
compliments
this
on that hat. The design. Jason Rose designed that for us, and
yes.
He did a great job with that. It's just
now
really.
Do you get people telling you once they see you in this hat that you look 10 times smarter too, or is that just me?
It's just you, Seth. It's just you. I'm going to go with that.
Good
I
to
think
know.
you look 10 times younger with that hat on, Seth.
If you're wondering how
least
you
10.
can get your hands,
Pull that brim all the way down.
All the way down.
if you're all right. If you're wondering how you can get your hands on a Money on Tap, oh gosh, I'm going to ruin this word. Is it
swag?
What is it?
Seth?
Swag.
Come on,
Swag.
you.
Yeah. We've got hats, we've got T-shirts, and people are getting these every day as they write into us, info@yourmoneyontap.com, or give us a call at 855-226-8551. And when we roll out an idea or a concept or something that you want to hear us talk about on air, guess what? You're going to get hooked up with some Money on Tap
Just
here.
to mention for anyone who's listening on podcasts, because some of them are delayed and they're old, it doesn't matter. If you email us an idea and we use it, we'll send you it out. It doesn't have to be on live.
We won't mention your name.
Yeah.
Yes. So our goal is to have thousands of you out there, not just the 1,000 already out there, but thousands out there with the Money on Tap gear. And we know that you well, anyways, we'll just jump right into our topic today. Guess what we're talking about? We're talking about, hey, if you're going to move in retirement, then maybe you should consider this. What are we going to consider in some of the reasons that we're going to be moving if we're moving in retirement, and some of the maybe strategic is besides just warm and lovely and everybody wants that in probably some form in retirement. What are some of the other reasons that we might want to move?
Let's change the way people consider where they're going to live in retirement today.
Well, Seth, a couple of weeks ago, you brought to my attention, so that is why that you have that Money on Tap hat. You brought to my attention an article that I thought was pretty interesting out of Bloomberg that talked about the best and worst states to grow old in. Now, that just doesn't sound great, the best and worst states to grow old in, but I guess that's what we're all doing one day at a time. But this is a survey that was it's interesting. It talks about ways to age gracefully and affordably.
Now, are we going to talk about for like a state of mind, like being grateful and happy, and is that what we're talking about? Those kind of states?
We were not, but we could add those too. We could add those
all
two.
right.
No, because that all is a factor involved too.
But what's interesting about this study, it's just it involved U.S. Census data, Genworth, AARP, Commonwealth Fund, the Gallup Healthways, and there's all sorts of information was brought together to do this. So this is a pretty this is some substantial backing information.
Timely, August of 2017. But it talks about Utah residents. It says this at the beginning. Utah residents who look forward to retiring in their state just got some good news in a report that names the state as the best in which to grow old. Those who hope to age gracefully in Wyoming, North Dakota, and New York may face more of a challenge. Now, I can think of that right away. More of a challenge would just be the climate right away.
Have you ever visited Utah?
I have. I have skied in Utah and had a great time out in Utah.
You, Seth?
For sure.
No, but I've seen pictures, and I've heard John talk about how wonderful skiing is
Yeah.
in Utah.
I've never been to Utah.
Okay, so
Top number one state, and I've never even visited.
Okay, so my first trip to Utah was skiing out east, and I remember getting on this. We went from a gondola to a lift, and then a gondola to the very top. We're up over 10,000 feet. I remember coming down. The wind was just howling. The snow was swirling. I remember coming down skiing fairly fast by this sign that said triple black diamond experts only. Now, I would say maybe.
I didn't think there was a triple black diamond
let
rating.
me tell you. Well,
There
you should
is.
know that being out there where you are, buddy. But let me just tell you, I skied past that sign. I was going pretty quickly, and I thought very quickly, should I plan on stopping and kind of trekking back up?
More life insurance.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Life insurance show, quick.
So I just decided I'd keep on going. I kept on going, and I ended up on this trail. I don't know what the name of it was. It had something to do with suicide or something like that. Anyways, it was a trail that was 6 feet wide. We had just had 2.5 feet of snow the night before. This was at
That's probably the only thing that made it survivable for you.
well, let me just tell you. So I got on this trail, and all you can see are the tops of these trees. These big evergreen trees, and I'm kind of skiing down back and forth, and all of a sudden I go down, kind of into this crevasse type of thing, and I am there with my feet above my head, and I see that both of my skis are off. And I didn't have those lanyards that you're supposed to have when you're skiing out west. And I also didn't have the powder skis that you're supposed to have when you're skiing out west. I brought mine with me on the plane. So I got these French fry skis out there. And I am digging down in the snow. And I have to say it was not a stellar moment for me. So I find one. I cannot find the other one. All of a sudden I look up over my head as I'm face down in the snow, and a snowboard goes right over my head. And he yells as he goes over. He didn't even know until he came. But that was an experience. So I think I got one run in that morning, which is not normal for me because I like to hit them, pretty hard when I'm skiing. And it was just not a fun experience. That's my Utah experience.
For all of our listeners, let John do your financial planning, not your ski trip planning.
Oh, that is for sure.
Right.
Oh, my word.
We've something I realize is that we've done a lot of shows, and we've kind of done some of this back and forth on like some of the places that you might want to consider retiring, or best and worst. We've done some of this stuff in the past, or giving. I remember our giving, some of our giving series. There was a lot in there around Utah being like some of the most generous in giving, and I think Utah makes top 10 for most of the places that you may want to go almost every time we talk about it. And so with that, I think I'm going to go home and talk to Kira about where we choose. maybe we can just start another branch of Brayshaw out in Utah, you guys, and we can just all be there now before we retire. What do you think about that?
That's some successful planning, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, as we go through this, the best and worst, right? I think that's the biggest question is there's so many rankings on states for what they're good and what they're not so good at.
Right.
And I mean, people live in all these states for a reason. They grew up there. They, they love something about it, and there's something about the atmosphere or something. When I go to Arizona, it's kind of like, it's brown. It's not the lush green. Yeah. It's not my thing, 'cause that's not what I'm used to. So, I think what's really interesting is that with the millennials, we joke around about how the millennials, live at home forever, basically,
yes,
right?
yes.
But I thought, as we go into some of these pieces here, there's actually a study out there in this article, the top 5 considerations when deciding where to retire.
Oh yeah, it's from our friends at Vanguard. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this? It's so once millennials fly the coop. Who knows when that is? Okay.
47.
Yeah, 47. Okay. They tend to stay close to home, close to their hometowns more often than any generation since post-war America. That is a really interesting. I mean, I mean, I remember growing up, it was like, how far can I go and how quickly can I get there? Right? I mean, it's a completely different.
Growing up on a farm in Warner, I can understand that.
Yeah. That definitely led to a lot of that thinking. But it's interesting because the millennials, you think that, there would still be that, we got all this ability to travel and be anywhere you want to be and be back in time and all this other stuff. Truth is people want to stay closer to home. They want to be closer to everything, which is in line with millennials wanting to be, city bound. They like being close to everything they possibly can.
They can go to shows. They can go to this, that. Yep.
Also a demographic that is changing as they realize that maybe they could get more for their money outside of the city. And that's been an interesting statistic I've seen recently too. But true.
Well, when you look at the costs in the city too, it's crazy how much the rents are for.
Well, I think you mature out of some of that city life too.
Yeah.
You get tired of it.
Right.
I mean, there's only so many times you can go out to eat before you're like, I just want to stay home and relax.
Yeah. One factor that we haven't even discussed is when I'm talking with people about where they want to retire, what I find that people are saying, the number one answer that I'm seeing people are saying, they're saying, hey, well, I'm not sure where my kids are going to end up, but I want to be around them, which makes sense. Because, a lot of us might say, hey, we'd love to maybe Hawaii. I know, Ben, Hawaii's not a great place for you. You've been there. You hate the long plane ride. But for some people that like that a lot there, they wouldn't necessarily want to retire there because their whole family's over here, and for them to come over, it's a hassle. People want to be where their family are. Right. They want to be where their grandkids are most of the time. Right. They want to be where their grandkids are. They want to be just around their families. So that's really a main factor that we often see when people are selecting and choosing.
Yeah, and I think there's people who I've met, clients who have moved to various places on the East Coast South, even though they preferred Arizona, just because they wanted to have an easier trip north. They could fly more frequently, fly easier, less hassle, and then relevancy to how close you are to an airport in retirement is an interesting statistic I've heard. Sure. People don't want to drive 3 hours to get to the airport, so there's kind of like this balance of things. But quality of life is number one here. So let's chat about that, John.
Yeah. So quality of life. I mean, we often we talk with people about what do you actually want to do in your retirement. So I have many folks that I know that, hey, they want to be able to ski. They want to be able to hike. They want to be able to to do things that they've done in the past, but just want to be able to do it more on their schedule as opposed to their employer's schedule. So quality of life might include, hey, we have mountains around, we have the ocean around,
right.
We have different things that we can do that's moderately priced. It's not crazy money. Like, for instance, the clients I was talking about earlier that went to Colorado, one of their dreams was they wanted to hike all these high mountains over 4,000 feet. And so it's a very affordable pursuit, it's a healthy pursuit, and so that really drove them to move in that direction.
Well, I think this is an area that I think people are not. So if you're listening, and we have 5 items here, 5 considerations when deciding where to retire. This is if you're going to write something down, quality of life is number one. What do you want out of life, and what location will help you accomplish that?
It's different strokes for different folks, right? If you look at this, look at urban destinations. For some people, hey, the reason why they want urban is because they know that they have great public transportation. They can walk around the city. They have quality health care. They have that's
and
main
you
driver.
might not even need to move. You might not even need to move states to find that. That might just be a couple of miles down the road. There might be, like where my office is here in Orenco. It's very walkable. I mean, you've been here and you've seen, like, you stayed a brownstone that's been converted into a little mini hotel that has everything around
Starbucks
you.
out in the corner. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you may not need to go far. We're just going to go ahead and kind of bring to light, I think, some of the demographics that these organizations, Genworth, Care, I think,
but
health care.
The quality of life thing is very interesting, and as you bring that up, you may not need to move that far. It might just be. It might be a simple move. It might just be a downsizing move, which is, something that not everyone's looking forward to doing. But, but if you can get that quality of life, I've met people who, it's why I have one couple. They own this beautiful, gorgeous home, a beautiful piece of land, and
is that here in New Hampshire?
Yeah, in New Hampshire, and they have struggled with selling it for 3 to 5 years because they know that they're spending time mowing the lawns and caring for the things, which they love doing.
They love it, yes. Yeah, I get that.
They love doing it, but at the same time, it's taking away from, like, maybe the hiking or maybe this, and all these different pieces that they might want to do on top of that. They've experienced that and they have joy from that, and they're like, but we don't need a house this big. And we don't need a yard this big to care for and have those same appreciations. And we don't want to be slaves to our home.
Well, that kind of brings us to number 2, real estate preferences. There's a lot of communities out there that are being built right now just for retirees. For instance, Arizona, you mentioned Arizona.
I planned that strong transition,
yes,
John.
It's a very nice segue, Ben. But there's sprawling markets out in Arizona, Phoenix area, where real estate developers are building single-family homes for incoming retirees. And so they have everything that's built around them. They have shopping centers, they have movie theaters, everything designed just for the retirees in mind. It may not necessarily it may not necessarily be strong in schools, that type of thing, but the retirees don't necessarily care about that. They've been there, done that, and now they're ready to be able to have it catered to their lifestyle.
Yeah, these are ranch-style condominiums even. And it's hard to kind of imagine that, but this is, single level living so that there's no stairs and transitions, which can be very important as you grow age.
Yeah, people can totally use stairs most of the time, but they don't want to have to move out because they have stairs when something does occur.
Well, think about why the Villages in Florida, where we have many clients that have retired to, why are people moving out to the Villages? Well, because there's a lot that is done for them. It's kind of like condo-style living, and they don't have to worry about doing all those different things. So the real estate preference would be, let someone deal with the outside stuff, let me deal with the inside stuff, and it feels like I have my own home and all that.
The Villages
and there's no kids allowed, right? It's over 55.
Yeah. Actually, just grandkids, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the Villages? I mean, they have sports that I've never heard of. Like somebody was telling me, I joined this XYZ team. I don't even know what it was. Yeah. It was a version of between ping pong and tennis.
Oh wow.
Pickleball.
Is that? Yeah, I think it is.
Oh wow, that sounds kind of fun actually.
And I was like
showing my age.
They're like that
sounds fun.
They have teams. They have. It's awesome.
It's hilarious. It's awesome.
It
is awesome.
I was like, that might work for my shoulder.
So what kind of Seth? What kind of ball is it? What? I don't understand it.
No idea.
Oh, yeah. I thought you would play it.
I saw. Yeah, I was at Dick's Sporting Goods picking up some football stuff and for Spencer, and I walked by this thing and I was like, "What is that pickleball?" Really? And it looked like these modified, they're like a ping pong paddle in between a ping pong paddle and a tennis racket. Okay. And I did watch some show that they were part of it. They were playing it, and I was. It's like tennis on a smaller scale. But I mean, they're serious. I mean, this is
this is no joke.
They're moving towards an Olympic. Yeah, they're moving towards Olympic sport on this. Like, people are getting down.
Anyway, so we'll see what happens with that.
So there's other real estate to consider. Basically in talking about family homes and national averages and all that, the median price for a single-family home in the U.S. was $196,000. That's according to Zillow. But national averages don't really give the whole picture there. If you think about it, in Florida, the cost is $192,000. In Texas, actually a lot cheaper. It's $159,000. So both of these states offer nice warm climates year round, but one comes at a much higher cost. So then also, Ben and Seth, what we also see is there's a question of buying versus renting. Some people don't necessarily want to tie up a bunch of their capital in real estate, and I can understand that. Some people have maybe had a house for 30 years, they haven't paid off, and then they decide they want to sell. They can use that chunk of money.
Or there's the snowbird equation where they're buying and renting. They're buying these condos on either side, and they're, I don't know, Airbnb or whatever however they choose to rent those destinations when they're gone, or even just doing like I've heard of people doing like a house swap.
Yes. Yep.
Where kind of a house sharing situation.
Yeah, I've had that scenario happen. I've had where two couples have gone into two homes in two locations together. Like they live together. Mm-hmm. In two duplexes.
You better get along.
Well, they don't really have to. They really, there's all sorts of stuff. They're friends, and it's totally a financial arrangement. They're not like super close, but close enough that they're like, we trust each other. And
I've heard of people doing that when it comes to it's kind of much broader things like a retirement island where they get 15, 20 of their friends together and they all pitch in, and they're on a pretty cool island. I mean, I can't imagine the cost of that, but it's actually pretty wild. So there's a lot of different things that can be done. Not that anyone.
Wait, I think you're confusing a show called Survivor.
Survivor.
And money on tap
and retirement with So
that would be
a few of the other things
Survivor.
You're out. You're off.
Well, just real quick, just to touch on the real estate piece, one last moment. I usually encourage people when it comes to moving to a place you have never lived, right? Like Florida. There's so many parts of Florida. There's the East Coast, there's the West Coast. You know, some people like the Gulf side, some people don't. Some people want the Atlantic side.
Some people aren't even sure if they can handle the humidity.
There's so many moving pieces. I usually encourage people, listen, January through, like April is an amazing time to be there, and you'll enjoy it. No question about it. But before you make a permanent move, even if you're planning on being a snowbird, make sure you rent. Make sure you try out a few different locations, because I have one friend who has moved down there. He's younger, and he's not in retirement at all, but he has moved 3 or 4 different locations, coast to coast.
Yeah.
And he's discovered that there's certain parts of certain things in Florida that he does and doesn't like. And
alligators. I don't like the alligators.
Yeah. But the Gulf side is a lot warmer water.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for refreshing water, you're going to want to really be on the Atlantic side. But, do you want to get hit by hurricanes more likely on the Atlantic side?
Sure.
There's all these different pieces of decisions to make. So that's just a note on the real estate piece.
So if you're looking to move to New York, it doesn't necessarily mean New York City.
Oh, exactly.
Like there's some diversification within states
Big
too,
time
right?
with New York. My goodness.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but before we do, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You are listening to Money on Tap. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Seth Krustman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Krustman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group are independent of SagePoint Financial.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, where we bring out the fun and experience in what we call three-dimensional investing. And we're all planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group. If you're looking to sit down and start making some decisions about your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Today we are talking about where you possibly might want to consider moving in retirement, and not necessarily just based off of the weather is nice there, or I have family in that area, or any of those kind of considerations. These are some different considerations and some things that we think are very viable that should, the conversation that should take place around that kitchen table when considering, where might we want to move. We've talked about the real estate. That might be, condominium living. That might be walkability with that, being able to get down to your Starbucks or your grocery store without having to hop in your car. And, some of the other considerations I think that we want to move through here might be taxes.
Yeah, as we jump into taxes, I think one of the things, so we've talked about quality of life, we've talked about real estate. Now we're jumping into taxes, and one thing about taxes is it's really the kind of that moving target a little bit.
Yeah, you can't just count on when you retire. You can't just count on things all staying the same, right?
Yeah, I mean it is really a moving target. I mean when you look at different places to retire, and well, does it have an income tax? There's 7 states that don't have income tax, right? So we've got Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming.
Now, why is New Hampshire not on that list?
I don't know.
There is an error, I think, from the Vanguard folks, because New Hampshire certainly.
And Oregon, right?
Oh no.
You don't have sales tax.
Yeah, no. Everybody in Oregon really lives in Washington because it's right across the river. It's only like a 20-minute drive, and you don't get taxed.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a huge consideration, though, Ben, isn't it?
That's
When you
big.
think about taxes. Now, on the plus side, we think of New Hampshire here as we don't have income taxes, which is great. But what we do have on the flip side of that is we have a fairly high property tax.
And expensive costs to heating your home in the winter.
Yes. Not so much cooling, although sometimes we have that. But for the most part,
that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, drop in the bucket.
But that's something that's really very serious, is that how are all the different moving parts in the tax world going to play into your situation? I mean, ultimately, when you start breaking down your federal and your income tax, people are like, oh, well, when I retire, I'll be in a lower tax bracket. That's mostly the consideration people have in their mindset. That's not necessarily true, especially if you start looking at places to move. And taxes really should be at the top of these 5 items here for you as you kind of go through those pieces. What I do find is that a lot of people decide where they're going to move, and then they deal with the taxes afterwards, and they're like,
that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not used to paying that high of a sales tax. Or, New Hampshire, I mean, we only have sales tax on room and board, basically. So,
yeah.
But
yeah, so if you were to go to a state and kind of discover, hey, I really like it here, or some other location, because there's all these different factors. Quality of life is there, and you look at the price of milk as you're in the convenience store, and you're like, oh, it's really not as expensive as I'm used to paying. But then you might have another balancing act when it comes to that income being taxed, or some of the other taxes that might be there that might offset that. So you may not really have a very clear perspective on what the true cost of living is in that area, just based off of your, stop and shop or whatever the experience was that you had.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. Property tax is a great illustration of that. Down south, property taxes are low, but most of the time they have income and sales tax.
Very low, yeah. I mean, It's amazing how low property taxes are. Whenever I see, friends of mine that live down south.
But when you add up what they're paying in income and sales tax, it's interesting because most of the time they're paying as much, if not more, than I'm paying. So it's a little scary there. We talked a little bit about number 4, which is family versus sanity.
I like how this has to be versus.
That's my favorite.
Versus family versus sanity.
Which I touched on earlier just because I really like the quote, but I'll repeat it again. Once millennials finally fly the coop, as John said, at 47, they tend to stay close to their hometowns more often than any generation since post-war America. Well, that is very interesting. But then on the other side, right, it says, meanwhile, many retirees are trying to put some distance between themselves and their adult children.
If my kids live in California, I want to make sure I stay in New Hampshire. That's kind of sad.
Well, it's just kind of funny because I think they're probably tired of them being in their house for 47 years, which would drive that last thought. But I do think that, your relationship with your children is going to drive a huge portion of where you're going to stay, where you're going to be, grandkids, all of that. That's an obvious piece to it, which makes, kind of the snowbird scenario here in New England a real common choice for a lot of people. They're looking for a very simple, even 1 or 2 bedroom condo, enough where they could barely shove everybody in their family in for a week and indoor Disney, and then they can send them off,
Endure.
Well, everyone comes down in June. It's so hot, and then you got to go
in line. Kids are fighting.
Yeah. So, but family versus sanity is number 4, and I think that's a balancing act for everybody. And I think I would say that every client I've sat down with has had a conversation with me on some level about their family relationship and how that impacts where they're going to move and how that's going to affect it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody needs to feel. Some people feel a little guilty about that. I think sometimes, what's the right distance from my children or my grandkids, and allowing that relationship to stay healthy, I think, is usually what's in mind, and at the same time balance that with what some of my goals might be or my needs might be. And some people are perfectly fine with, the kids staying at home and raising having multi-generational living is, something that was common in the past. The farmhouse, everybody was raised up in that farmhouse. They had their kids, their grandkids, everybody was in one place. And then it went away from that post-World War. And I think there was, one of the statistics here that I think is interesting is that the interstate migration rate has fallen 51% since 1971. And, that's where people grew up in a town, moved out of state, found their life in some other situation, and that's the way it was. And that was kind of I think that was almost some of our DNA in being, pioneers and being, kind of U.S. based and just having that, ingrained in us. The adventure of a life is to move. Now we're going back towards that multi-generational living, and I can't tell you how many places that we see that's the trend. It's like you've got to have the mother-in-law's unit or the something like that for grandma or grandpa to stay with the family, or maybe a little different in the generation that's coming through with the kids raising their family together with mom and dad still in their home even.
Well, when you talk about that, one of my favorite movies as a kid was The Natural with Robert Redford, and what a great movie. But the idea, the sentiment that you leave home, you make your hay somewhere else, and then you come back. You kind of return to your origin or something like that. And that's kind of something that, our generation has grown up with a little bit, is like you go away and you kind of come back. Where, as this generation kind of develops, this millennial generation of being closer to home, being with family, and kind of, I think there's a lot of loss inside that family unit. And I think that has been experienced by the people who have kind of gone away, maybe even are still away, have had their children, they're millennials, and they want them like, listen, it's no fun to be away. Be with us. We don't want to be alone away from our family anymore. You stay close. So I think there's a little bit of that. I mean, that's the open door policy that a lot of people have with millennials. Now,
and I think there's a lot of value. There's a lot of richness as well when taking a look at, what has God blessed us with? To be blessed with family and relationships, that is significant. And I think people are recognizing that more as well.
Yeah. Now, number 5. Okay.
We'll park for a little while, I think, because this is.
Yeah. Number 5, which is something that I would say probably very little consideration given to, a decision on how it would impact your retirement, is healthcare. Sure. Not just the cost of healthcare, but the quality of healthcare. How many times is somebody listening here today they sat down and said, you know what? I want to know exactly where I should go to get the best health care and be retired there so I can have the longest retirement possible because I had the best health care.
Yeah, this is not what people are thinking. But I think healthcare is where these expenses can pile up, these unforeseen expenses. I mean, we think, okay, so we go through life and we're at 65 and we really haven't had many health issues. But maybe that's right around the time where we start seeing some issues, maybe with blood pressure, maybe some kind of a heart disease. Not to be depressing, but there's different things that can come up along the way, and people aren't really considering that. And retiring in one state versus another may make it much more affordable. If you're facing some health challenges. For instance, in this article that we're looking at, it talks about says this: according to the HVS, the average 55-year-old woman who
HVS being the Health View Services, John.
Yeah, the average 55-year-old woman who retires at age 65, lives until 89, and carries a supplemental policy F will pay $173,583 for health care in Hawaii. In Massachusetts, that same woman would pay just $116,790.
Yeah, that's almost $60,000 of difference.
And think about what $60,000 could do for someone's portfolio as far as income or that type of thing.
Yeah, so to get health care in Mass, and we all know Massachusetts is not inexpensive.
Right.
Okay. So then the question is how do the taxes, this is where you sit down and you evaluate all 5 of these considerations. How are the taxes in Hawaii compared to Massachusetts? And, how close is it to my family? And all these different evaluations and considerations. But I think what just drives healthcare is like, hey, they might have been able to get it cheaper, but was the healthcare better in Hawaii than Massachusetts?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, oh gosh, I wish I had it right in front of me here. Maybe I do. Yeah, I think it was a U.S. News best states for healthcare, exactly. And actually it has Hawaii as number one, and there's 3 different categories there. It has healthcare access, healthcare quality, public health. I don't know what public health. I could research that real quick, but I think for the sake of the conversation, there is a rating of 2 for healthcare access in Hawaii, which is great, and healthcare quality is a rating of 3, which is high on those scales. So need no more speculation on those numbers, my friends. I'm here for you whenever you have a question on what is the quality of healthcare. And that was actually a run by, the data from that was from McKinsey and Company. If you wanted to take a look at that,
we have so many different articles that will highlight different things. So, for instance, you were citing a U.S. News article, Seth. I have a U.S. News article here that talks about the cost of living, all that, and it ranks Massachusetts number 1, New Hampshire number 2, Minnesota number 3 But
hey, thanks for shooting it out of the water.
It's just different. As I said before, different folks, different strokes, and things that are important for people.
Yeah.
But here's a guy this guy's a Bankrate data analyst who ran some numbers against a survey of future retirees, and he said historically people have looked at 2 main factors when thinking about places to retire. Number 1 is maximizing the value of their fixed income. Okay, so people with pensions, people that have a fixed income coming in every month, which is most of us. And the other is relatively warm weather. But there's actually a lot in what goes into good places for good retirement that have good outcomes. So it says here that plenty of people are prepared to pick up and move when it comes time. About half of American adults who haven't retired yet say they'll consider relocating to a different city or state when they retire, in the survey conducted by Bankrate. The youngest are readiest to go, it appears, with 58% of millennials open to resettling in this young millennium. The baby boomers nearing retirement aren't quite as ready, it seems. 37% say they are. Yeah, because these people have stayed in one place. Maybe they don't like change. Maybe they want to stay in a place that they've liked. They've built that house. They've been there for years, and they don't want to go, just like we were talking earlier in the show.
Well, some of the factors here that I think we're taking a look at as we're walking this idea through is, this was really just a couple of pieces of the healthcare puzzle, which are the access and the quality. Number 1 being Hawaii, number 2 being Massachusetts, number 3 being Minnesota, number 4 being New Hampshire. Now, I'm going to stop right there for you because that's good news for all of you in New Hampshire.
That means John's going to be around a long time.
I have to go down to 24 for Oregon. But those are 2, it's the access and the quality of healthcare. So those are a couple of factors. And I think what we're considering is that as well. But also, what is that cost of healthcare? Like, for instance, the illustration that you used, Ben, is $60,000 difference between where were the 2 locations? And Massachusetts. That is significant.
That is significant
in somebody's retirement dollars.
Make that times 2. Let's say you have a husband and a wife.
Right.
You double that.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go through, here's another U.S. News. U.S. News is great. They got so much information. But like Nevada, right? Nevada scored number 44 with good weather, but the nation's worst health care.
Lots of casinos, but not good health care.
Yeah. It's like,
if you want casinos, no thanks.
Yeah. If housing affordability you're thinking about, Ohio's number 1. If it's healthcare, it must be Hawaii. It's like all these different pieces are going through, and it's like what I've really found is that it might even get more granular than that. It might just break it down to if you have a specific type of illness, right, or you have a specific type of need or care, you may know that you have a predisposition in your family's health that you might need some sort of care. Then you want to start researching maybe the hospital locations that will care for that the best.
You've been listening to Money on Tap, and the topic that we've been having a lot of fun with here today, folks, is where are you going to retire? And, why? Why? How do we make those decisions? And how can we start to intersect some of the really fun stuff with the quality of life and, having the Starbucks nearby, or having the grandkids or kids nearby, or having it really warm, and all of those things together. We haven't talked about that possibility. Maybe we just all move together. Maybe that's the plan. Everybody picks up, relocates to the perfect situation in Florida or Hawaii. But also, some considerations in your healthcare costs and some of the finances around things that can be prohibitive for staying retired and accomplishing those goals in our finances. We appreciate you listening today. Hopefully you were able to grab something that you're able to make use of or understand a little bit better in your retirement scenarios. And if not, we would welcome an opportunity, or even so, if you're looking to dive deeper, we welcome an opportunity to sit down with you and draw up a plan specific to your needs. At Brayshaw Financial Group, that's what we focus at, and that's what we're really, really hope to be able to make ourselves available for you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Facebook is always there too, folks, if you want to join us there via. We appreciate you being here today. You guys, this was a lot of fun. I had a great time, and can't wait for next
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Seth. Bye, everyone.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.